Another reading from the small but communicative group of internet people known as the Dead Nazis. The people who believe that they are reincarnated from actual Nazis from the past, usually higher-ups. And we'll be leaving DeviantArt and visiting deadnazi.net, the appropriately titled website, owned by, actually I don't know the name of the owner, I'm not sure of the webmaster's name, or if they even have a name. I mean, I'm sure they have a name, but I don't know if it's on the site. Anyway, in this edition, we will be reading kind of a little question and response series that this person wrote in order to introduce the concept of the dead Nazi to the unenlightened. And so we're going to get going. This is titled Dead Nazis of the World Are ... And first we ask the question, they're putting words in our mouth here. Dead Nazis are putting words in our mouth. I hope you're ready for that. One thing I'll warn you about, too, I may comment on this on occasion, this person has a very weird capitalization habit. They capitalize some things that shouldn't be, and don't capitalize other things that should be or that are usually capitalized in this community. I'm pretty sure they usually capitalize the D and the N, both of them in Dead Nazi. This person does not, I don't know why, but they do capitalize just sort of random words, like rumplements. We'll see. I may comment on this, and if I do, forgive my capitalization Nazism. Alright, so our first question that we're supposed to be asking is, just what the hell is a dead Nazi anyway? A dead Nazi is someone who was, once upon a life, a member of the German National Socialist Party of varying degrees of nastiness, and is now reborn as you and me. Dead Nazis come in all shapes, sizes, and colors. Flavors, excuse me. Shapes, sizes, and flavors. That's interesting. We cook your meals, pump your gas, grade your tests, and wait on you at the Disney store. Disney doesn't have a capital D. No respect for Disney here. Yeah, so that was a nice little Fight Club reference, I guess. I don't know if it was intentional. Many of us spend our days tailed by an inexplicable guilt, slouching through Holocaust museums for a sign. Holocaust is not capitalized either. Sometimes we become Talmud students. It's a couple of things here. First of all, the inexplicable guilt may be a symptom of depression. I know that's boring, it's kind of mundane, it's not as interesting as reincarnation, but it may be the very worldly explanation for why you're having that guilt. Slouching through Holocaust museums for a sign. Okay. I don't know if you ought to slouch in museums at all, because that makes you look weird. Sometimes we become Talmud students. It's weird. Another thing that's weird, among all the weird things, is they tend to connect Judaism with doing penance for their quote-unquote crimes in a past life, as if they... I don't really believe they did any of... I don't believe in reincarnation, of course, so I don't believe any of these people are guilty of the things they think they're guilty of. A dead Nazi is also an alcoholic shot beverage. The local variety is a layered shot of Jägermeister and Rumpelmans. That's also our local variety, but it has to be... I imagine it would taste terrible if you didn't strain it through ice first. And they usually do around here, at least where I've had it. It's got a weird kick to it, kind of... I think people who like wasabi, or like a lot of wasabi on their sushi, would also like the dead Nazi shot. But please, have them chill it. Or don't. Take the risk, see if I care. I'm not a bartender. Alright, so here's the real treat, because we had this in our last recording about the dead Nazis. We had a list of signs that you might be a dead Nazi, and now we have another list. Because the second question we're supposed to be asking is, how do you know if you're a dead Nazi or not? Try a past life regression. If you scream and scream without going particularly far, you've got a good chance of having been a Nazi once. I mean, it was only like 60 years ago. It was only like 60 years ago. Barring that, the appearance of these behaviors and signs in you or someone you love may indicate dead Nazism. Bullet point 1. Penchant for tall, black, flat-soled leather boots, unadorned, save perhaps with silver. I like that type of boot. They are stylish, they're versatile, and they're easy to walk in. And I've owned several pairs throughout my life. I like to have as few shoes as possible. They clutter things up, so this type of boot. I also like a shoe I can walk in, and this type can be professional or casual. I recommend it to you, dear listener, if you don't already have a pair of tall, black, flat-soled leather. They don't need to be that tall. Black, flat-soled leather boots, unadorned, save perhaps with silver. I love the way they put it. Alright, inexplicable ease in German speech, understanding, and or pronunciation. Not surprising for an English speaker, because the German language is close to the English language. They're in the Germanic family. Plus, if you have a motivation for learning German, such as you have a reincarnation suspicion, or you could just be good at languages, or you're interested in languages in general, you're going to have some people are going to have an easier time than others. It's just natural. If you have your pens and papers out and you're checking things off as to, whether or not, to find out whether or not you're a dead Nazi, yeah, I would put no check mark here. I'd put one check mark on the other thing, but about the tall, flat-soled, black leather boots, yes, I get a check mark. I might be a dead Nazi. Except I don't think that's a very good sign. As for the ease in German speech, I've never taken German. I have noticed that when I see a German word and its translation, or sometimes even just when I see a German word in context, I can figure it out because it's so close to English. I might recognize, even if it's spelled slightly differently or probably pronounced differently, I might recognize something that it's sort of similar to a word in English. I think that probably happens to most people who are paying attention to that kind of thing. Alright, obsessive and inexplicable feelings of haunting, gloom, and or guilt. As I said, get your depression checked out, or your potential depression. I'm not going to tell you you have it, because I don't know, but get yourself checked out. See if you haven't already. If you have already, I don't know, do it again. Make sure. Get a second opinion. Obsessive research of World War II, or WW2, German history, and or the Jewish religion, especially at a very young age. Okay, there's also a good explanation for this. Oh, by the way, I do have inexplicable haunting feelings of gloom or guilt, but that's just because sometimes I get depressed. And, it flares up, and that's how I feel. But I don't attribute it to a past life, because I don't believe in those. But I can say that, no, I've never had obsessive research. Okay, here's our next sign. Obsessive research of WW2, German history, and or the Jewish religion, especially at a very young age. Now, at various points, I've been interested in these things. I have been interested in the Second World War. I have been interested in the Jewish religion at wildly different times in my life. And just because I get interested in things, I'll get interested in a subject and research it, and I like to do that. I've had a lot of interest in my life. So, especially at a very young age, well, here's the other thing. Well, there's a couple of things about this. We get a lot of coverage of World War II in our media, both in, sort of documentaries and things like that, and in fictional movies, even in songs. We have a lot of discussion of it in school. We have a lot of discussion particularly of the Holocaust, because it's considered important, and I think for good reason, to learn about genocide and the extremes to which hatred can go. And also, we have the fact that, at least in in my country and in many other countries which were affected by the war, we still have lots of people alive today who were soldiers or who survived the Holocaust or who fled the war as refugees. We have people who lost family members in the war. It's a topic that has come up in my family for reasons. I mean, I can just think of in my immediate, my grandparents' generation, we had two people who fought, and one great uncle I never met because he died. So my grandmother's brother. So it's something that comes up a lot, and you're going to be exposed to it from a young age. It's only natural that you might become interested, and as the Jews were one of the large groups that the Nazis oppressed, becoming interested in the Jewish religion. Also, it's a minority religion, but it's a well-known minority religion, and that might become interesting in its own right for that reason. And it's an interesting culture, and there's more than one type of Judaism, and it can be very interesting when you get into it. Anyway, fondness for Jägermeister. I'm not sure if Jägermeister was around back in WW2, but let's assume it was. I am fond of Jägermeister, so give me a check mark. My research of none of these topics was obsessive, particularly, so I'm going to not give myself a check mark for the other one, or give myself like half a check mark, because I don't know that it was ever really, and plus it wasn't a young age. That's important, apparently, here. Okay, maybe. What would define a young age? Like 8? 6? I don't know. I was interested in Germany when I was pretty young, but that's because I have German ancestry. So at that point, I think at the point that I was interested in Germany when I was a little kid, I didn't know much about World War II, and I don't think my parents were about to explain and say, hey, Germany's mainly known for this. They just, I think they got me some books about, like, modern, what do German kids do, and I think I was that young that it would have been, like, very basic books about, like, what the climate is like and what the people do as a pastime and things of that nature. I just distinctly remember getting a book about Germany when I was really young. Alright, so don't give me like half a check mark there. Give me a check mark on fondness for Jägermeister, sure. Flinching at the sight of someone setting down a briefcase nearby. Well, here's how we know the writer thinks they were important. But no, I do not flinch in those situations, as far as I know. I mean, if it's really loud and it's right next to me, sure. Associating Mickey Mouse with Heinrich Himmler. That one I don't get. I'm sure there's something I'm missing there. But no, I guess I don't associate Mickey Mouse with Heinrich Himmler. Alright, preference for European cigarettes and the operas of Wagner. Don't know much about opera, don't know much about European cigarettes, so he can't give me a check mark, even though Ride of the Valkyries is an awesome song, whatever. It's an awesome sounding it just, it's kinda rocks. I don't know. Clicking the heels when coming to attention. I rarely have occasion to come to attention, so I don't know. Holocaust museums feel masochistic yet cathartic. No. The few sort of Holocaust exhibits and things like that I've been to have felt mainly kind of just dreary. I mean, I think that's kind of the point. It's hard to make it anything other than dreary. I've never felt catharsis at one. Yeah, I don't know. I did at one point have a chance, or I could have, because it was near me, I could have gone to one of the more famous Holocaust museums. I didn't go because I thought it would be too depressing. And at the time I was in and out of depressions, and I just didn't want to make it worse, and I also was told that you would cry in public, most likely. I'm not much of a public crier, so I thought I'd give that a miss, as they say in England, I think. Yeah, I wasn't... I also think that I don't need to personally, just me. I don't think I need to be further educated on the Holocaust. Maybe one day I'll develop an interest in it and decide to research more about it. I have researched a little. I just don't... I'm against genocide already. And there's really nothing that... You can't really say anything to make me any more against genocide than I already am. So I don't think I need to put myself through that. You know, maybe it wouldn't be that bad. Maybe it would be educational. Maybe it's set up to be more educational than depressing. I don't know how Holocaust museums are usually set up. As I said, the few exhibits I've seen were kind of dreary, and they were educational, but just not the way you necessarily want to spend a Saturday, or a Monday, or I don't know. I do remember finding the period kind of morbidly fascinating later on in life, and I think all kids kind of have a morbid fascination to some extent with or not all kids, but some kids find a morbid fascination with the Holocaust because it was so grotesque and because it was just something that's very hard to imagine happening. And I mean, it's like it's hard to imagine yourself doing those things or having those things done to you. And so at a certain, maybe around your teens or so, or maybe before that, you might get interested in it for that reason, for sort of, you know, what happened inside these people's heads, and you might become interested in those, in the same way you might be interested in serial killers or something like that. Just in the bad side of human psychology. Alright, an ability to read and paraphrase in a sensible way, Mein Kampf. Well, I don't have that ability because I tried when I was in college to read a translation. By the second chapter, I just thought Hitler was a little whiny baby. He whined a lot. That was at least the way the translation was. It was very whiny. Not a fan. You game, especially Pendragon, Napoleonic wargaming, and or anything having to do with the Knights Templar. No checkmark, because I don't play those types of games. I'm replaying Morrowind right now. I don't think that gets me a checkmark here. And I'm not much of a gamer, actually, so I don't think I get a checkmark at all. You might get a checkmark, but I still don't think you're a dead Nazi. I think you just like games. That's fine. Neo-Nazis and neo-Nazi propaganda inspire headaches and feelings of great age. I thought that was a normal reaction to neo-Nazis and neo-Nazi propaganda, but alright. I guess the rest of us are... I don't know how we're supposed to feel about it, but I don't think that's that abnormal. Somewhere deep in your belly you expect Hitler to show up again, but this time things will be different. Not really. I expect bad leaders to show up. I expect them to be a thing for humanity for quite some time, until we figure out the perfect form of government, or the perfect way to choose leaders. The perfect way to vet people. I don't know. So I guess they will be different. It will be another different type of crappy leader that... Yeah, so... No, I don't expect Hitler to show up again. Do you? That's pretty weird. Like, do they... Because from what I've read elsewhere in my meanderings around the dead Nazi community, they don't expect Hitler to... When somebody shows up, or, like, asking them to believe that they're a reincarnation of Hitler or Himmler or somebody like that, they usually laugh them out of the room. They usually don't like that kind of thing. Like, nobody gets to be Hitler. So if Hitler did show up again, if this were all real and Hitler did show up again, they probably would not even notice. They would just say, another person claiming to be Hitler. They're like the Cleopatra of our fandom. I don't know, it's kind of like a fandom. Alright. Profound hesitation before following any order. I, again, rarely have occasion to follow orders. I'm not in the police, I'm not in the military, so I don't... You know, in a normal job, your boss doesn't order you to do something. They usually, if they have any respect for you, they'll ask politely. Even if they're your boss, they'll just say, hey, could you... Something like that. Could you get that report in by the end of the week? Thanks. I don't know. Could you go and make sure the bread is rising? I don't know, depending on what your job is. But... I mean, there are some orders I would not hesitate to follow, like if I were in an emergency and a doctor or nurse needed help right away and, like, ordered me to help them carry someone, or, I don't know what they would order me to do, but, like, if it was someone who was obviously needed help doing something important, and they just said, hey, get over here and do this, I would get over there and do that, even if it was rude of them to ask that way. Like, I would not blame them for being rude in that situation. But yeah, most of the time, ordering someone around outside of, you know, certain bedroom games, in real life, ordering someone around is generally considered rude. You don't just order people to do things. So, I don't know, this question can't even be answered by most people. I like to think that if I were, like, in the military and I were ordered to do something, like torture someone or do something that I thought was wrong, let's insert anything here that you might think is unethical. I like to think I wouldn't do it, but I don't know. Yeah, I don't know that for certain because I have never been in that situation. This list is general and usually applies to officers, higher echelon men, the SS, and anyone who knew what was actually going on. The dead Nazi clicking soldier is somewhat different. And we're going to hear more about this clicking soldier, because this person's always going on about the clicking soldier, and not always, but this person spends some time talking about how the clicking soldiers, the sort of the lower people in the German army, were, you know, completely benighted and had no idea what was going on, and these days they still have no idea what's going on, and they just generally have a contempt for this type of... it's weird. These fellow reincarnates of theirs, they have a great deal of contempt for them for some reason. So our third question, we're going to get into it here. Our third question that we're supposed to be asking is, there are different sorts of dead Nazis, and we ask it without capitalizing dead or Nazi yet again. Uh-huh, is the answer. For example, a dead general, bullet point number 1. Once you were Goebbels. That's the way it's spelled. I don't know how it's pronounced. Now you work at Burger King. Poor you. Dead SS. Guilt on a stick. Now you're a Jewish princess. Again, with Judaism as, like, a sort of penance. I mean, a Jewish princess being reborn as, I guess, you know, that's a relatively well-off young Jewish woman. You know, I'm sure that person would still have problems in their life, but this is not a terrible existence. You're not desperately poor, or, you know, I mean, you could have any number of other problems, but it doesn't seem, given what the type of reincarnation I know about is sort of the standard thing where you're reincarnated as something. If you really fuck up in one life, then you're reincarnated as something worse. You know, say you were a Nazi, you should be a cow in a slaughterhouse now. You shouldn't be a human being living a relatively normal existence. But yet, for some reason, being reborn as Jewish is seen as a way to make up for it. It's just strange. Okay, so yeah, if you're dead SS, you have guilt on a stick, which we've talked about the guilt already. Now you're a Jewish princess, or a webmaster with your own domain, at least semi-devoted to gaming. You nerd. Smiley face. I think we have a description of our host here. Dead Einsatzgruppen / concentration camp worker. Guilt to the nth. Now you work in a New York deli and go home at 4:30 every Friday. Of course you do! Because being Jewish is a punishment. That's just it's really disrespectful. Like, I mean, I guess I'm not Jewish myself. I guess I'd have to, I don't think I'd even have to check with any Jews to ask them whether this is a disrespectful idea. I think it is. It's not difficult to figure out. Okay. Dead field general. Mostly gloom. You know that the Germans could have won. You know how, and you add, not that that would have been a good thing in the long run at the end of any such tirade. Because of insurmountable guilt, of course. You now work at a library, school, or Holocaust museum. Next bullet point. Dead clicking soldier. Once a fascist. That's how they spell fascist. Like, fascist. Once a fascist. ... No, I'm sure some of you still have some guilt, but you were just following orders after all, and you're still a fascist. Learn to spell fascist, at least. Dead Vichy French. Slightly watered guilt and a heck of a lot of gloom. But only by comparison. Your job is boring and you dabble in Kabbalah or Kabbalah. I don't know what the right pronunciation is in Hebrew or English. Kabbalah, I think. But I think that's the Hebrew, I don't know. Vichy, I'm not sure of either. I have absolutely no clue on that. Vichy. I don't know how to say it. Dead a la Nuremberg, whitewashed guilt, some karmic debt being paid on the gibbet. You're probably in med school now. Okay, so if you're just killed at Nuremberg, you're executed. Just for... You're just... All that happens to you is you're captured and executed. That whitewashes your guilt, and now you're in med school. You were executed for war crimes, and you get to be in med school now. That doesn't make any sense either. That does not seem like a raw deal at all. I'll take it. Sure, I'll go back, have a past life where I am a war criminal, and then I'll get to go to med school. No, I don't mean it, but surely you can see how this is kind of strange. I would really like to understand better the specific beliefs about reincarnation that these people hold. Like, how do they think reincarnation works? The lore behind it is what I want to know. I want to know, why can you be reborn as something better than what you were? Do you get to choose what you're reborn as? What changes between lives to make you think that, like, if you were a wholehearted, believing Nazi in one life and you did some terrible things, what changes you so that in this life you have a website like this? Like, what changed between lives? Did you have another life between them? How does it work? Alright. Dead anti-Hitler conspirator. Yeah, go ahead. Lord, as in Lord in heaven, it over the rest of us. Lord it over the rest of us. So it didn't work, but you tried, damn it. Guilt? What guilt? Question 4. If you're a dead Nazi, why advertise it? Answer. Because it's far better than being a live one. Snap. 5. Question 5. What is the difference between a dead Nazi and a live Nazi? Answer. The obvious, meathead. 6. How about a dead Nazi and a neo-Nazi? Answer. That's a little more like it. A dead Nazi, as I have said, was a Nazi in a previous life and is now paying off the karmic angst, which I mean in the German fear of death way. Okay. Why would these people have a fear of death at all when you can obviously be reborn as someone in a better, possibly a better person in a better circumstance? Anyway. You could work at a school or be in med school or just be a deli owner or something. Like, why would you be afraid of death? You're just gonna pop out and it sounds like a better life. A neo-Nazi has more hair than brains and is very likely new to the game. No more hair than brains. I like that kinda. Is very likely new to the game, which is to say has never been a Nazi before. Oh, I am sure there are some neo-Nazis who are also dead Nazis. See Dead Nazi Clicking Soldier in question 3 for a theory on that. See, yet another time they're crapping on the clicking soldiers, the ordinary army folks. I don't know. But I don't think it's prevalent. Dead Nazis are far more interested in ensuring that unpleasantness in the 30s and 40s never happens again. Never ever happens again. Ooh. Ever. One ruined lifetime being so much enough, thank you. I don't understand, again, what changed between lives. That's what I want to know. Why are you hell-bent on ensuring that unpleasantness doesn't happen again? What did they herd all of the, the between lives land, wherever you go between lives? Did they herd you all into a classroom, but only the higher ups? They herded all the higher ups into a classroom, and they taught them about how what they did was wrong, and then they sent them back out to go and own delis and things, or work at delis, or whatever it was they said. I don't know. I don't know why I keep mentioning the deli. Maybe because I'm hungry? Okay. Question 7. Ruined lifetime, eh? You sound pretty broken up about the whole deal. Didn't you have any fun? Answer. Define fun, but no, I cannot tell a lie. Being alive and in power in the 30s and 40s wasn't all bad. No, not at all. There were big soft pretzels to eat and pre-war Bordeaux to drink and lovely sexy uniforms to wear, and best of all, boots! And here we use all caps. Lovely black leather boots. And did I mention the boots? Of course, so this person has a boot fetish, we can tell. I, by the way, don't. I just like that type. It's for the reasons I mentioned. If I had a boot fetish, I don't know if I'd mention it. Maybe I would. It'd be funny. And besides, it's a really mild fetish to have. Number 8. Question 8, that is. Come on, there's got to have been more to it than that. Answer. Ja, das ist true. Das ist true. Now, I don't know the German word for true, but I'd be surprised if it were the same as the English one. I'd be somewhat surprised. Maybe not entirely surprised, because, like I said before, they're related languages. But so we put ja, das ist, and then we have true. Okay. Maybe it is the German word for true. Maybe it is the same. Do not know. There are sensible aspects to National Socialism. If you don't love your country, after all, what are you doing there? Okay, so there are a lot of reasons why people can't leave countries they don't like anymore. Economic situations, political situations. There are plenty of people who want to leave their country but can't, for various reasons. There are plenty of people who do leave their country and maybe didn't want to, but anyway. Yeah, you don't have to love everything about your country in order to want to live there. You might want to improve it. You might have ideas for making it better. Okay. There's something distinctly attractive, yes, about pledging yourself to the cause of a man and letting him be always right for you. And there's a feeling, yes, a fervor, that can take hold of someone and carry them, make them better, more successful, more glorious than ever thought possible. Is that what you meant? Question number 9. Well, I suppose, I guess so, but that's not even a question, that's just a bunch of interjections. Well, I suppose, I guess so, but... Answer. If you ask me if that means I liked being a murderer, I'm going to throttle you. Oh, ha ha ha. Knee slapper. 10. That is statement 10? It's not a question again. Well, thou hast said it, and now we're talking in Shakespeare talk for some reason. I don't know why. And the answer is, right, what about the camps, ja? And our question, or again, our statement number 11 is, well, ja, ... I mean, yes! And the answer goes like this. Sighs. All right, I think the camps and the resources they consumed lost us the war. I think that without the Holocaust, German conquest of Europe might have been complete. I think that there has never yet been a Holocaust museum that could really capture the truth of the camps, that was powerful enough or clear enough. I don't think there could be, because there is no tasteful way to do it. It would have to be more irreverent, it would have to be even more irreverent than, well, this site. I wonder what they mean by, I wonder what an irreverent Holocaust museum would look like. One that, the type of thing that they're describing, how would that be better at communicating what happened? This is something that I would pick their brain about. because I know they don't mean it irreverent in the sense of, oh, ha ha ha, look at the Jews getting tortured and the Roma being imprisoned and the homosexuals and the communists, and look at all those people, look at them with... No, I don't think it would be like... I don't think that's what they're suggesting here. I think what they're suggesting is something entirely different that they don't elaborate on, and I would definitely... My next question would be, what would that look like? And why would it be more effective? Okay. And here we have a little bit of an explanation, but this... We'll see what this... This is not enough. Some things can only be dealt with offhand, with humor, or else the layered-on horror seems false and painted on, and there are those who refuse to believe it. Okay, I can see that. Is it so unbelievable? Outrageous things happen every day. Mundanity is hardly the rule, and abject cruelty... ... Can the way it happened be said to make sense? Can anything so outre really take place in a sensible Phasian? That's how they spell fashion. I think not. Okay, so if I get what they're saying here correctly, maybe they're talking about the use of dark humor to kind of convey horror without looking it squarely in the face, which is dark humor is a useful tool. I think. I mean, as someone who occasionally, well, more than occasionally, likes to research pretty morbid things, and things that are pretty frightening and horrific. I'm interested in true crime, for instance. At least at this point I am. Dark humor can be... It kind of goes along with the territory. You know, it's hard to even read about something very disturbing and not have some way of lightening... Not lightening, but kind of... Yeah, in a way lightening it, but with an acknowledgement that it's still a very heavy thing. It's... there's nothing that can take away the horror of it. And I can kind of see what they're saying here about if you really rub something in, if you lay it on too thick, then people might think, you know, it's like, it would have an effect a bit like the, you know, buckets of blood in a bad horror movie. You know, it wouldn't really seem realistic. But I don't know, because I've never been in a realistic war situation, or escaped a serial killer, or, you know, seen somebody tortured to death, or anything like that. I don't know what that looks like. And I don't think this person does either. You know, to tell the truth. Number 12. Question 12. I thought I was asking the questions here. Answer. Can it, Bucky? You're in dead Nazi land now. I'll ask questions. You'll ask questions. You'll ask questions when I tell you to ask questions. Shkapow. Clear his throat. Ahem. Yes. So apparently they still cannot restrain themselves from slapping people verbally. I mean, slapping people using onomatopoeia. One thing I want to say about this whole I was a villain, but I don't want to be a villain. This has something to do, I think. Here's just a stab in the dark about what this all could possibly be about. I might be wrong. There might be other things I'm not considering, but I think some of this, not necessarily even just for this person, or even for this person at all, but for at least some of the people who are in this subculture, this dead Nazi subculture, it seems like, in a weird way, it's a way of taking power without really taking power, without admitting that you want power. You know, saying that I was a villain, I had this terrible power in a past life, but I don't have it anymore, and I don't want it, and I would never want it again, but I had it. It's a way of... I think it's an underhanded way of conveying a desire for some control over something. I mean, I don't know what could possibly be, you know, maybe there are things in their lives they don't have power over, that they would like power over. Maybe they have never felt in control. I don't know. I'm not a psychologist, but I don't believe that delusional or, I mean, they could be, but it doesn't come off that way. It seems like an ordinary religious belief, except that the content is odd. The content is unusual, but it's no more ridiculous than widely held religious beliefs. So I don't think they're delusional. I think they're like any other religious person. They just happen to believe in reincarnation in some form, some strange form of reincarnation, and believe that they were specifically reincarnated in a certain way. I don't think they're bad people because of this. I don't even think they mean the disrespect that this comes off as disrespectful. It comes off as, using a real tragedy as your fantasy playland in a way, and then there's the whole thing with Judaism as a punishment. So I can see why this might come off as disrespectful. I don't think they intend it that way. I don't necessarily think that makes it better, but, at the very least, I think they could possibly, if they're ever talked out of this type of belief, or they ever get past this type of belief and just deal with whatever they need to deal with in their life, that's not, something is, clearly this is fulfilling something in their life right now, and if they get that thing, whatever it is, fulfilled in a different way, maybe they'll look back on this and say, okay, I was wrong, but because they seem to sincerely believe this, I can't say they're intentionally treating this as something light. It's just that from my outside perspective, it seems like someone using the Holocaust as in a weird way, a little, like a fantasy crutch. And yeah, I don't like that. And again, I don't think they're delusional. I also don't think they're bad people. I think this person clearly believes that genocide is wrong, and they're not advocating for Nazism, which is great. That's a start. They're still wasting a lot of time on something. I think the wasted time bothers me quite a lot, but the wasted time usually bothers me in these things. And I realize I'm wasting my own time in a way when I read these out loud, but for me this is something that I enjoy, and I also think that it's fun to shed light on obscure belief systems. It's personally fun, and I think it might be fun for other people to see, to kind of look at these unusual belief systems and see hear what they have to say in their own words. I don't have a lot more, speaking of things to say, I don't have a lot more to say about this particular reading. But, yeah, and I hope that you have a good whatever you're having. Have a good day, night, good morning, good evening. I don't know if anybody here ever listened to Coast AM, but one of the hosts used to always... That show is ridiculous, but it's fun. But one of the hosts used to always refer to all of the times of the day. So yeah, have a good morning, evening, whatever you're having, and have... I hope you will, if you are in fact listening, I hope you'll make a comment. Specifically, I'm interested in what do you think might be going on in these people's heads. I know I shouldn't speculate too much about it, but it's just too much fun. Alright. Goodbye.